How to do, y'all? Tables here. So I've been tinkering. I've been tinkering with the SRS of Enormity build, and man, things are looking pretty crazy. Actually, we ended up with more defense and more damage somehow. I do want to say thank you to Mr. Beethoven from the Discord. He actually swapped to play the build in which he'll be getting this new POB and to test out something that I was, pretty concerned about, and that is our cast speed. The cast speed of SRS is, it's not good. It's slower to cast, and so we tried throwing faster casting support in because that would, essentially be a net DPS increase. And he was without the necklace, the chaos necklace, he was just able to get the last minion out as the first one was exploding. So when you add in the necklace, I think I counted out at about, a 3-second pop time, give or take. Still kind of slow, but I think that the best option is using Awakened Unleash. I think is most definitely the way to go. And this actually gives us a lot of damage. It's a 0.6 second, or excuse me, 0.5 second. And so that'll allow us to get 4 of the 6 out, and then we'll be able to get the other 2 out. So, it'll be a major pop, and then a minor pop, and then a major pop, and then a minor pop. But it should be very, very chunky damage, especially with them critting. We'll have about 800,000, give or take, ignite DPS. So I want to go over some of the things that have changed in the build. We ended up dropping a few nodes and kind of getting a little bit more efficiency going in the build. And that mainly came in the form of getting Essence Surge, just to make our ES a bit more reliable and a little bit more overhead. I never had an issue casting SRS other than in a map which reduces the recharge rate of my ES. Those maps were kind of annoying, but they were still doable. They'll be even more doable, I believe, with Unleash. But typically just didn't run those mods. I was just like, fuck it. I just don't want to run it. And I may figure out a way to get a little bit more ES regen in the build so that that's not an issue. But I haven't quite figured out how I want to solve that. So for now, we're just going to have a bit more overhead. We were at like 400-ish ES. Now we're at a flat 600, which I think is reasonable. Another change to the build is we ended up getting some extra armor. We gained probably about 5k armor, give or take. And we picked up the physical damage taken as chaos. Now, I don't know if I want to take this yet because our chaos res currently is dependent on our flask, right? So we're still positive 40%, which is not terrible, but it is going to require that our flask is up. So I'm not sure if this is a really good, reliable mastery to be taking. I think that a much safer route would be to take this to up our chaos max hit and lessen our max fizz hit, which I think is probably going to be the route that I end up going. We've still managed to gain about a 2k fizz max hit, which I'm really happy with because I think we were probably around 14k before with the configuration setup. So that's a positive. Really happy about that. We also dropped a few points, moseyed on over to Constitution. I really, really, really wanted to hit as close to 5k as possible to really try to reduce the threat of getting one-shotted. And since we're at 35k armor with our granite flask, I think that's going to be okay. Even without the granite flask, we have 90% fizz dam reduction, right? And which is also being helped along by bone barrier, which is super nice. And we are running exactly 10 minions, exactly. So we have 7 zombies, 2 specters, and 1 stone golem. So that gives us an additional 10% physical damage reduction, which is huge, humongous, right? And we're getting increased recovery rate of life and energy shield, which is going to help us even more with our Eldritch Battery. And, you know, this Bone Armor rocks. Like, Bone Armor's sick. Super good. I'm deciding not to run an Animate Guardian in this setup, and that is namely because of this necklace. This necklace kind of kills the Chaos Res, you know, where it's still positive on the AG, but only at like 13%. And I found that my AG was still dying a lot, and I was sick of having to rebuy items just to get it up. So I'm just 86ing it from the build completely. I don't even want to bother with it, to be honest. Another change is we had an extra socket, which is now shield charge. And our attack speed on shield charge is not that good unless we take spiritual command. So all that attack speed that we're getting for our minions is now, you know, affecting us. And so now shield charge is a lot more reliable. You'll be able to zoom around the map a lot easier, and you'll still have good old flame dash to get over any kind of terrain issues that are in your way, any kind of obstacle. Or if you just want to super zoom, you can just do that. It's totally up to you. Now that we've gone through all the changes here, right, let's go to configuration, right? So if you're planning on mapping without Ignite Prolif, this is what your map DPS is going to look like, right? As far as our specters go, we run 2 of them, right? So we're running Carnage Chieftain for frenzy charges. I have it maxed at 2, not 3. And we also run a Pale Seraphim for increased damage taken, 10%, right? So that's super, super nice. And then, so if you're just generally mapping with this setup, without Signal Prey, you're looking at about 38 million. You know, when you're Signal Preying on rares, if like really, really tanky rares, you're looking at close to 50 mil. Right, and then you get into your map boss, you signal, you're at 38. Effective hit pull, still pretty solid. And then our Guardian and Pinnacle for your bossing. Obviously, this will be on, you're at about 36 mil. And last but not least, our Uber Pinnacle is about 11 million. Not bad. Not bad at all. Now, for general mapping, and this is what I recommend people do, this is what I'm going to do. I would recommend taking Predator off, right, and putting on Ignite Prolif. I think this is probably going to be the most reliable way to do this. And you're looking at about, even if you were to do Guardian this way, you're still looking at about 26 million damage. Or if you're just going to do straight mapping with a boss at the end, you're looking at about almost 27.7 million DPS. So pretty stinking good. Pretty happy with that. General mapping, our effective hit pool is incredible. One thing that I would love to get on this shield is I would be okay with dropping some damage for a percent life gained on block mod. But to get that plus, you know, all these other mods is like, that's a big ask. We're talking a very, very hard to craft and very expensive shield. So we will just have to rely on our 50 energy shield when we block and our Testudo. We get 30 life when we block. So, you know, and we could even come here and get even more if we really wanted to. 20 life, that would be another 50. So, you know, do what you want. We still have 2 points to play with. I don't really know exactly where I want to put those just yet, but I'm sure we'll decide here after a while. So that's kind of the rundown of the tweaks that I've made with the build. I think it looks really kind of solid. Honestly, I'm super, super happy with it. General mapping should be an absolute breeze with Ignite Prolif. You won't have Predator, but I don't think that's going to be much of an issue, to be honest. I think it's going to be just fine. I think one of these points really should go into area of effect. The 2 non-negotiable, well, actually there's 3 non-negotiable masteries. Increased effective offerings, which helps us get our block, right? And it's automated, obviously. You know, we have the whole setup in the wand. Minions penetrate 8% of cursed enemies' elemental resistances. And the lovely 30% max life. And then if you can swing it, I really think for clear, I think having a 30% increased area of effect is going to be quite nice. So this is the tree as I have it. And also, if you do get hit, we are going to be gaining endurance charges when they do seep through our block. And that'll help us to stay alive, even more. So I'm pretty confident that this build is going to just absolutely dominate. I think this is a very reliable build. It's great at bossing. It's great at mapping. It's just one of these it's just one of those all-rounder builds that's just beautiful. So with that said, that's the update. I'm sorry I kept you guys so long. That's all I have. The next build, it's either going to be this. I'm either going to level this and test it, even though I really don't think it needs to be tested. I think it works. I already know that it works. We didn't really change much other than just adding in Unleash, which I know is like a banger support. So it's either going to be this, or I might just let Beethoven take it to fruition, or my next build's probably going to be Burning Arrow of Vigor. Life stacking, that looks like way too much fun. I'll let you guys know either way. I'm kind of tempted to level this just to see where it goes. I'm sitting on about 60 div right now to burn. And I think this build could handle it pretty well. Oh, one more thing. I didn't think about this. As far as the league starter goes, it's still looking pretty damn good, if you ask me. The only thing that I would do is I would drop Consecrated Effect. Right, so that drops our damage down, and I would just run Unleash, just like we do in our in-game setup. Right, I think that's going to be super important, and we ended up gaining at that point. So I'm gonna have my buddy Beethoven test Unleash, and I think that essentially solves the issue of the slower cast time on SRS of Enormity. This, I'm probably gonna tweak this a little bit, maybe make it a little bit more defensive. 5.6 mil for a league starter is, obviously it's more than enough. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. With that said, guys, thanks for hanging out. Be good to yourselves. I'll talk to you guys very soon.